My fiancée said my dying father's funeral plans were ruining her Cabo content. So I quietly ended everything before she landed at the airport. I'm a senior risk and compliance analyst at a fintech bank in Phoenix. I document everything and identify patterns before they become problems. It's kept me employed and explains why I'm typing this instead of being in Cabo. My dad got sick 6 months ago. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He's in Tucson with my sister Brooke, who's handling his care. 3 nights ago, she called. The doctors recommended comfort care. I sat in my garage for 2 hours trying to process what it means to pick a day for your father to stop fighting. My fiancée Kelsey is a lifestyle content creator. She posts aesthetic photos and partners with brands for sponsored content. Most of our living expenses come from my salary. She moved into my townhome about 14 months ago. She walked into the garage around 11 carrying shopping bags. I was sitting in the dark. She'd been shopping for our Cabo trip, a combined engagement celebration and brand content week. She'd lined up photographers, videographers, partnerships with swimwear companies. I told her we might need to cancel. I needed to be in Tucson. This could be the last week with my dad. She stared at me. Then she said, "Mark, please don't do this right now. This trip is my brand. Your dad's situation is honestly ruining the Cabo vibe, and I've worked too hard on this content schedule to throw it away because of bad timing." I didn't get angry. I didn't argue. Something in me just went completely quiet. I looked at her standing there in her new white sundress, the one she'd just bought for the influencer pool party, and I said, "You're right." She looked relieved. She actually smiled a little and told me to pull myself together because we had an early flight. Then she left for a nail appointment that she'd booked for 10 at night because apparently that's when her favorite technician had availability. I sat in that garage for another 20 minutes. Then I started making calls. I canceled our Cabo reservation. The resort booking was non-refundable, but I converted it to airline credit under my name only. I rebooked myself on a late-night flight to Tucson, leaving in 6 hours. Then I called my credit card companies. Kelsey was an authorized user on 2 of my cards. I removed her from both accounts effective immediately. While I was on hold with the second credit card company, I logged into my account to check recent charges. There was a pending transaction I didn't recognize. $3,180 to something called Lux Content Studios in Scottsdale. It was dated 5 days ago. I made a note of it. I changed every password I had. Banking, email, Apple ID, the smart locks on my townhome. I called a locksmith and paid extra for him to come out at midnight. While I waited, I used my phone to record a complete video walkthrough of my home with timestamps, documenting the condition of everything and what belonged to whom. Then I called Brooke and asked her to be ready to serve as a witness if I needed one. She asked what was happening. I told her I'd explain when I got to Tucson. The locksmith came at 12:30. He changed the locks and provided me with a receipt that included the date, time, and reason for service, which I listed as security concern. I contacted my HOA and building security to let them know there might be an access issue with a non-owner occupant in the morning. I packed 1 bag. I left Kelsey's belongings completely untouched. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine, and I didn't damage anything that was hers. Then I drove to the airport. My flight left at 4 in the morning. I texted Kelsey from the gate. "The trip is canceled. Your cards won't work because you're no longer an authorized user. I'll arrange for your belongings to be available for pickup this week. Don't contact me again." Then I turned off my phone and got on the plane. I landed in Tucson around 6. I turned my phone back on and had 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. The most recent one was from 7:30, about 30 minutes ago. She was at the Phoenix airport. Her ticket didn't exist. Her cards were being declined. She was screaming at the airline desk agent and threatening to call the police. I called her back once. She answered on the first ring, hysterical, demanding to know what I'd done. I kept my voice very calm and told her exactly what I'd already explained in my text. She started yelling that this was her birthday trip, her content, her partnerships, her career I was destroying. I said, "I didn't want to ruin your vibe, so I removed myself from it." Then I hung up and blocked her number. I'm at my dad's bedside now. He's sleeping. Brooke brought me coffee and asked if I was okay. I told her I honestly don't know yet. Part of me feels like I overreacted. part of me knows I didn't. I'm not sure which part is right. Was I wrong to do this without any warning? Should I have tried to talk to her first? I don't know. All I know is that when someone tells you your dying father is ruining their content schedule, something breaks that you can't really fix with a conversation. Update 1. Thank you for the responses. I'm still in Tucson. My dad's condition has deteriorated. He's in a step-down unit and we're managing his pain. Kelsey escalated as predicted. She started posting on social media about financial abuse, about being trapped by a controlling partner. Her friend Maddie, who works as her video editor, posted edited clips framing Kelsey as a victim. I started getting messages from acquaintances asking what happened. I didn't respond, but Brooke convinced me to protect myself legally, especially since these allegations could end my career in financial compliance. I returned to Phoenix briefly for documents I needed for my dad's care. Brooke came with me. We arrived at my building around 8. As I was unlocking my car, Kelsey and Maddie appeared. They'd been waiting. Maddie started filming. Kelsey stepped in front of me and loudly claimed I'd stolen her work laptop. I told her everything was packed in storage, that I'd text her the location. She refused to move. She yelled that I was a thief, that I'd sabotaged her career. Maddie kept filming, asking leading questions. Brooke called security, then police. 2 officers arrived. I provided documentation, property deed showing 7 years of ownership, utility bills in my name only, the locksmith receipt, the video walkthrough. The officers asked Kelsey for proof of tenancy. She had none. They explained that without written agreement or evidence of payments, she was a guest, not a tenant. They told her to coordinate pickup through a third party. She cried and said this proved I was manipulative. One officer told her that false allegations were serious, and she should speak with an attorney before continuing social media posts. After they left, I finally had a moment to check my bank statements properly. I'd been monitoring my accounts from Tucson, but I hadn't done a deep audit. That $3,000 charge to Lux Content Studios had cleared. I called my bank's fraud investigation line. The representative pulled up the transaction details. The charge was for a content creation studio package that included space rental and a professional photography session. The booking was made under Kelsey's email address, but here's what made me go cold. The client name on the booking wasn't just Kelsey. It was Kelsey and someone named Ryan. The session was scheduled for 2 days before our Cabo trip. I asked for copies of all documentation related to the charge. The rep sent everything to my email. The booking form had been filled out 6 days before I canceled the trip. It included a mood board. The photos in that mood board were engagement-style shots, couple photos. The aesthetic was desert romance and golden hour intimacy. I forwarded everything to my attorney. Then I called my credit card company and formally disputed the charge as fraud. Brooke and I drove back to Tucson that afternoon. She scheduled a controlled pickup of Kelsey's belongings at a public storage facility for the following week. Neutral ground, inventory list, witnesses present. I got a text that night from Kelsey. My mom and my lawyer will be there. Looking forward to getting my things back and holding you accountable. I didn't respond. My dad's breathing had become more labored. The hospice nurse said we were looking at days, maybe a week. Nothing else mattered anymore. Update 2. My dad was moved to ICU 4 days ago. His liver is failing and he's now on continuous oxygen. Brooke and I are taking shifts. Our mom is here too now. The 3 of us are trying to make sure he's never alone. I'm not sleeping much. Every time I close my eyes, I think I'm going to miss something. The pickup happened yesterday. Brooke handled most of it because I didn't want to leave the hospital. She took my mom's boyfriend Carl with her as a second witness. They met Kelsey, her mother Pam, and Maddie at the storage unit at 2 in the afternoon. Brooke had prepared an itemized inventory: clothing, toiletries, electronics, personal items. Everything had been photographed and documented. She'd separated anything that could be considered jointly purchased or ambiguous. If there was any doubt about ownership, she'd included it in Kelsey's boxes. According to Brooke, the first 30 minutes were fine. Kelsey and her mom went through boxes, checked items off the list. Then Kelsey stopped and said there was something missing. She claimed I'd stolen her brand new MacBook Pro, a $1,500 laptop she'd purchased specifically for content editing. Brooke showed her the inventory. There was a laptop listed, an older MacBook Air that Kelsey had owned before we met. There was also a tablet, but there was no MacBook Pro. Brooke asked if Kelsey had a receipt or any proof of purchase. Kelsey said she'd ordered it online, but it was shipped to Mark's address, and I must have kept it. Pam got involved then, backing up Kelsey's story, saying of course Mark would have stolen it, that this was exactly the kind of controlling behavior they'd been warning Kelsey about. The energy shifted. Maddie started filming again. That's when things fell apart for them. Maddie, while filming, said something like, "This is so typical. He knew you were going to use his credit to buy it, and he intercepted the package. He probably sold it." Brooke stopped everything. She asked Maddie to repeat that. Maddie realized what she'd said and tried to backtrack. But Carl, who'd been quiet up until that point, told her to keep going. He's a retired paralegal. He knows how to ask questions. It came out in pieces. Kelsey had attempted to purchase a MacBook Pro using my credit card without asking. She'd tried to have it shipped to Maddie's address to avoid me seeing the charge. The order had been placed 2 days before I removed her as an authorized user. It never went through because the billing address didn't match the shipping address, and my credit card company flagged it as potential fraud. Brooke pulled up her email on her phone. My credit card company had sent me a fraud alert about the attempted purchase. I'd been copied on it, but I'd been at the hospital and hadn't read it carefully. The email included details: a $1,500 charge to Apple, attempted billing address change, flagged and blocked. Kelsey tried to argue that we were engaged, that she had a right to use my credit, that I'd always said what's mine is yours. Pam said I was twisting everything and making Kelsey look bad. Brooke shut it down. She told them the pickup was over, that everything on the inventory list was there, and that any further claims needed to go through attorneys. She packed up what was left, locked the unit, and left. She called me from the car. I was sitting in the ICU waiting room. She explained everything that had happened. I felt nothing. I know I should have been angry or vindicated or something, but I just felt tired. Then my phone rang. It was the nurse. My dad's blood pressure was dropping. They weren't sure he'd make it through the night. I needed to come now. I hung up on Brooke mid-sentence. I ran back to his room. I held his hand. I told him I loved him and that it was okay to let go. My mom and Brooke got there 20 minutes later. He died at 4:17 in the morning. We were all with him. I'm writing this from my sister's guest room. It's been 3 days since he passed. We've been planning the funeral, contacting relatives, doing all the administrative things you have to do when someone dies. I haven't thought about Kelsey or the storage unit or any of it. I don't have space for that anymore. Brooke told me that Maddie sent her an email this morning. Just one line. "I'm sorry for your loss. I know what was happening wasn't right. I'm out." I don't know what that means, and I don't have the energy to figure it out. Final update. It's been almost 7 months. Some of you kept checking in, so here's closure. My dad's funeral was small. Family and close friends. Kelsey didn't come. She sent flowers with a card. I donated them to a nursing home. The first months were survival. I went back to work barely functional. My boss told me to take bereavement leave. I took 6 weeks, most of it in therapy. Last month I got served. Kelsey filed small claims for the Cabo trip costs, the laptop, lost brand income, and emotional distress. $12,000 total. I called my attorney. He said small claims was actually good news because it meant her case was weak enough that no lawyer would take it on contingency. He offered to represent me but said I could probably handle it myself if I wanted to. I decided to represent myself. I've been documenting everything for months anyway. The court date was 2 weeks ago. I showed up with a binder, financial statements showing I'd paid for the trip entirely with my funds, the fraud report from my credit card company about the blocked laptop purchase, the storage unit inventory and witness statements from Brooke and Carl, screenshots of Kelsey's social media posts, text messages and emails, the police report from the parking garage incident, and then I had the messages that referenced the Cabo vibe comment. I had screenshots of my text to her the morning I left. I had phone records showing 47 calls in 2 hours. I had everything. Kelsey showed up with her mom and a different friend, not Maddie. She was dressed professionally and she was calm. She represented herself too. She started by explaining to the judge that we'd been engaged, that she'd lived with me for over a year, that I'd promised to support her career, that I'd abandoned her without warning and destroyed her professional reputation out of spite. She painted a picture of a controlling partner who'd isolated her financially and then discarded her the moment she became inconvenient. She cried when she talked about being left at the airport with no way to get home, about losing brand partnerships worth thousands of dollars, about the emotional trauma of being locked out of her home. The judge listened. Then he asked her about the timeline. When exactly did this happen? She gave him the dates. He asked what else was happening in my life during that time frame. She hesitated. Then she said my father had been ill, but that didn't excuse financial abuse. That's when the judge's expression changed. He asked her to clarify whether she was aware my father was dying during the week in question. She said yes, but that I'd used that as an excuse to control her. The judge turned to me. I didn't say anything dramatic. I just walked him through the timeline, the doctor's call, the garage conversation, her exact words, my decision to prioritize my father's final days over a vacation, the documentation showing I'd given her access to her belongings and that she was never a legal tenant. Then I showed him the fraud investigation documents about the $3,000 charge, the booking for content creation with another man, the attempted laptop purchase using my credit without permission. The judge reviewed everything silently for what felt like 10 minutes. Then he asked if I had any other evidence. I said yes. I had one more thing. Maddie had sent me a file 2 weeks ago. No explanation, just a WeTransfer link. It contained screenshots and a voice memo. The screenshots were from a conversation between Kelsey and Maddie from the day before I left for Tucson. Kelsey had written, "If he actually goes to Tucson and bails on Cabo, I'm going to make him pay for this. I'll tell everyone he was controlling and abusive. I'll take him for everything." The voice memo was from the same conversation. Kelsey's voice saying, "I've invested too much in this relationship to walk away with nothing. If he wants out, he's going to fund my exit properly. He owes me for the time I spent building my brand around our relationship." I played it for the judge. The courtroom was completely silent. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice. That means she can't refile. He told Kelsey that exploiting a family tragedy for financial gain was one of the more disturbing cases he'd seen in small claims. He said my father's death was a matter of public record, and that her claims of abandonment were contradicted by basic human decency. Then he looked directly at me and said he was sorry for my loss, that I'd clearly made the right decisions during an impossible time. That grief was hard enough without someone trying to profit from it. Kelsey left without looking at me. Her mother followed her out. I packed up my binder and walked to my car. I'm doing okay now. Not great, but okay. I'm still in therapy. I'm still processing losing my dad and realizing how badly I misjudged someone I almost married. I've been spending more time with Brooke and my mom. We're trying to be there for each other. Kelsey is living with her mother now, according to mutual acquaintances. She's still posting on social media, but her following has dropped significantly. The brand partnerships dried up after the airport incident went semi-viral in influencer circles, apparently not the way she planned. Maddie moved to Colorado and we haven't spoken since she sent that file. Last week I used that airline credit from the canceled Cabo trip. I didn't go somewhere celebratory. I took my mom to Portland. My dad had always wanted to take her there, but they never made it. We visited Powell's bookstore and walked through the Japanese garden and ate at a restaurant my dad had saved on his phone. We didn't talk about him much. We didn't have to. I don't feel victorious about any of this. Mostly I just feel tired and sad and relieved that it's over. Someone asked me in the comments of my first post if I thought I'd destroyed her life. I've thought about that a lot. I don't think I destroyed anything. I think I just stepped out of the way and let her entitlement collapse under its own weight. My dad used to say that the worst thing you can do to someone who's expecting a fight is refuse to show up for it. You just walk away and let them realize they're yelling at nothing. I think he was right. I'm not planning to date for a while. Maybe a long while. I need to figure out how I missed so many red flags and why I stayed so long with someone who saw my grief as an inconvenience. But I'm working on it. Thank you all for the support. It meant more than you know during a time when I felt pretty alone. I hope wherever you are, you're surrounded by people who see your worth and show up when it matters.